specifically, this comes from the integument as well. Yeah, eccrine sweat glands, American sweat glands. And that thing right there, the Chinian corpuscle. Can't miss that. Okay, what is this thing right here? Node of Ranvier. I will either use this slide or perhaps one of the slides that are stained with H and E. But very distinct, not too hard to identify. And this is also taken from the integument. What are these right here, specifically? Apical sweat glands. And that tissue would be what? Simple columnar epithelium. And right here, those are processes from what kind of cell? Myoepithelial cells. And right here, what is this tissue we see right there? Loose connective tissue. And right there, and possibly right there, and right there, those nuclei are the nuclei of what particular cell? Fibroblasts. And what are these acidophilic things we see in there? Collagen, yeah, collagen fibers. What organ do we find here? Cerebellum. And this portion of the cerebellum is what? White matter. And that layer is molecular layer, and this layer is, well, you guys are getting it just like that. And these cells that we see right there, and then again right there, what are those cells? Purkinje cells. And these are the same cells stained with that gold technique of Golgi. Okay, so we need to identify the tissue, or not the tissue, the organ, and then the different layers, and then we have this tissue that lines that organ, and that tissue is the pia mater. Okay, what is this tissue we see right there? Simple squamous epithelium. This is from the kidney, but you don't need to know that yet. That's simple squamous epithelium, a little bit of connective tissue underneath that. And this tissue right here would be what? Simple cuboidal. Note the nice round nuclei piece of cake. Simple cuboidal epithelium. Oh, let's go back to that. There's a capillary right there. Okay, well, simple cuboidal epithelium, simple columnar epithelium. There's some variation that you'll find throughout the body in the height of those. And this tissue right here would be ciliated pseudostratified columnar epithelium. And there's the ciliated border right there, and this cell would be goblet cell. And what is this structure we see right there? Basement membrane. In the next lecture, we'll talk about the different cells besides the columnar ciliated cells and the goblet cells that are resident in this particular type of epithelium. This is also pseudostratified columnar epithelium. This comes from the epididymis. It does not have cilia. It has stereocilia.
You said basal lamina instead of basement membrane.
Basement membrane.
Basement membrane.
Yeah. Okay, and that layer, what are those structures we see right there? Cilia, right. So this again is ciliated, pseudostratified columnar epithelium. And we have a layer of basal cells down there besides the goblet cells. And they're showing the cilia again. There's that basement membrane. This is actually an awful slide. I mean, there's too much shrinkage in here. but because of that shrinkage, we have some of these cells actually pulling away from that basement membrane, and they're pulling away from one another, so you can see those cilia somewhat better. But aesthetically, that's an awful slide. Okay, how about this tissue right here? Specifically, yeah, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. How do you know this is non-keratinized? See the nuclei all the way to the surface. Okay, this is a cross-section of what particular organ? Yeah, peripheral nerve. And so on the outside here, what would that layer be? Epineurium, and right here we're going to call this the, and then here we'll have a third layer which would be endoneurium. And then surrounding that axon would be what? Myelin sheath. Okay, and how about this tissue right here? Transitional epithelium. And what is that particular cell we see right there? Dome cell or umbrella cell. What surface do we have here? Apical. And that would make this surface the basal surface. And how about this tissue? Skeletal muscle. And the dark lines we see would be what? A-bands, and the lighter lines would be I-bands. And this tissue, what is this? Yeah, this is a section, the previous one was one of those teased preparations. And let's see, how about that line we see right there? That's a Z line right there. A-bands, I-bands can be demonstrated on this lab practical. Sometimes the Z line, but it's a little bit tough from time to time. What is this layer we see right there? Perimysium, and then surrounding each one of these is a endomysium. And this tissue is what? Skeletal muscle. Okay, and how about that structure right there? This was up on demonstration, and that is motor end plate. I will not be using the same slide on the lab practical. Okay, how about this tissue? Cardiac muscle. And what are these lines we see right there? Intercalated discs.
I know.
And how about this tissue? Cardiac muscle. Yep. Another intercalated disc. I reserve the right to put two of the same thing on the lab practical. Maybe from different, well, certainly from different slides, with different orientation. But I might have a neutrophil up twice, 3 times, 4 times, whatever I damn well think I am. Okay, and more cardiac muscle. Let's go on to the next slide here. And how about this tissue? What is this? Cardiac muscle again. See the nucleus right in the center. It's very typical in a cross-section of either skeletal muscle or cardiac muscle, due to the shrinkage, to see these little bundles of myofilaments. And at one time, do not write this down. These are called Conheim's fields. Okay, and that has gone by the boards. Just like the old name for the macrophage was a plasmatocyte. I prefer plasmatocyte to macrophage. And how about this thing right here? What structure do we see right there? Purkinje fibers. Not Purkinje cells, but Purkinje fibers. And how about this tissue? Smooth muscle. And we know that's smooth muscle because we have these nice stogie-shaped nuclei. And kind of a spindle-shaped cell. And how about this tissue? Smooth muscle again. Smooth muscle in cross section. And right there, what is that? It's an arteriole. Okay, and more smooth muscle. We have a little connective tissue out there. And in this case, you can see that those nuclei are kind of buckled because this muscle contracted as it was fixed. How about that cell right there? Plasma cell. And how about that cell? Fibroblast. And how about that cell and that cell and that cell and all plasma cells? What do they secrete? Antibodies. And how about that cell right there? A little bit tougher. It's another plasma cell. You can see that halo right there. But that cell over there, what is that? Macrophage. Okay, and how about this cell right there? Mast cell. No mistaking that one. And these fibers would be collagen fibers. How about these fibers? Elastic fibers. And that cell right there is another mast cell. And these fibers in the background here, those are collagenous fibers. How about all this other stuff in between? Yeah, ground substance. Can you see ground substance? Not really. So I could put a blank slide on the stage. Okay, well, this is what kind of tissue right here? Loose connective tissue. A lot of cells, fewer fibers. But if we look at this slide, what kind of tissue is this? Dense, irregular connective tissue. Okay, and this organ right here, palatine tonsil. I'm not going to put the lingual tonsil on the lab practical. So if you see a stratified squamous epithelium and you see lymphatic nodules with germinal centers, and you see these deep structures right there, which are called crypts, that would be palatine tonsil. And this organ right here would be what? Lymph node. And out here, this portion of the lymph node is what? Cortex, and this portion in here would be the, I know, boy, you guys get that really quick. Okay, and out here we have the capsule. Okay, so there's the capsule right there. Right underneath that we have what? Subcapsular sinus, and then we have a trabeculum coming down, and alongside that we would have the trabecular sinus. There's a germinal center, and this would be the lymphatic nodule. And in that subcapsular sinus, from time to time, we could find a reticular cell. Possible, but not probably going to be on the lab practical. Okay, so this organ is what? This is lymph node again. Out here we have some unilocular fat, white fat. We have the medulla right there. There's the cortex. Many of the slides we have of lymph node do not show very good germinal centers, but the lymphatic nodules will be there, but you may not see a germinal center. In fact, if you go back, there's that trabecular sinus right there, and these would be what? Medullary sinuses. And between the medullary sinuses, we would have medullary chorus. This is also taken from the lymph node, and these fibers we see right here